Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gay with God podcast. And for those of you who are wondering, was I posting today? Where are you? Don't you usually drop these earlier? Yes, all that, yes. And the reason that I'm posting this a little bit later today is one, this morning has been an amazing morning of unexpected things. And so every time I thought that I might have a settled state to do this, or, it's just one of those things. Things just kept popping up, and all of them out of my awareness that it was going to happen, and most of it out of my control. So it is what it is. It's still Monday. I still have time, right? So today I'm going to do a reflection for you on what Sunday was for many churches, and for the Episcopal Church is a celebration of All Saints' Day. Now, this is a time really to remember the people that have been in your lives and are now not in your life because of dying, or I also think sometimes it's people leaving and you don't see them anymore, or there's this loss of life in your life with them. And that might be stretching a little bit. So that's why I'm saying Twisted All Saints Day in the title, because it's Midge's twist. It's how I'm taking it today. So if you really want to know the true meaning of All Saints Day, and go to your doctrine or go look it up, and don't hold me accountable for anything I say today that's not right. It's my right. It's Midge's right. So anyway, this is Twisted All Saints Day. So I want us to think about the people in our lives and why they may be in our life, or what they left us. What did they leave for us? And it's not things like an inheritance or a house or a car or something tangible. It's something that will not wear out. It's something that will probably grow within you as you have it and you remember it and you embrace it. And because that was left for you, you may be a different person than you might have been while they were living, or you might have learned how to take what they left you and give it to others. So today I'm focusing first on the people in my life that left me something. And then I'm going to end with the fur babies in my life who have left me something. So let me start with my pawpaw. If you've read my memoir, you know that he's my grandfather on my dad's side, and he was a hellfire and brimstone preacher. So if I wanted to look at the negative, of course, he left me with this fear of hell, and he left me with this absolute fear that God would send me there. But you know what also he left me? He left me conviction. That man, I don't know if he ever did change his mind about anything, but he definitely never changed his opinion about the hellfire and brimstone doctrine that he preached. And so I think about his conviction, and I know that part of me has that in me, a conviction that when I know something's right, I go for it, and I very rarely change easily. Now I do change my mind. I do change things that I've done before. It's just that I know that in me there is that very strong paternal side of conviction that is a blessing maybe and a curse, but I really appreciate the fact that he was trying to help people in what he really thought was the truth of the gospel. And his mission was to save people. And how he did it was damaging to me, and also taught me that when you are able to speak up and speak out about something, that having that conviction in you is really important. And today we're seeing the, No Kings rallies, we're seeing all of these protests, and all of them have conviction that we need to stand up for democracy. And so if we keep that in check, that's really a very good quality to have been left and to have emulated for me. And now it's up to me to know how to take it, how far to take it, and what to do with it. So, Papa, thank you for conviction. Now, Mama, who of course was married to Papa and was my dad's mom, this is an odd thing. And, I know that none of my family members listen to this, so it's fine. But she left me with learning how to swear at ball games. Now, this is a white-haired woman who used the purple rinse in her hair for Sunday service. Sometimes it got a little bit more than like a light purple. It was like a deep purple, but anyway, whatever that was that they put on their head that I'm sure was toxic. But uh, I can remember her watching specifically the Braves game, baseball, the Braves. And oh my Lord, would she swear? And Papa would be sitting in the little armchair next to her. Thankfully, there was a table and a lamp in between them. But and he would say, "Anna Pearl, stop that." And he was mainly upset, I think, because the grandchildren were there. And she would talk about, I mean, ugly talk, racist talk. And he would call her out on that too because we were in the house. But she was, I mean, at church, she was that saintly, pastoral wife image. But you get her at a Braves game on the television, and oh my. So I appreciate being left that because I do have a love, of sports, and I do get kind of fired up. But again, you've got to know how to be passionate about your team and not, as I have in the past, scared my dogs out of the room with the screaming I would do for the Carolina Tar Heel boys on the basketball court. So I appreciate and thank my mama for showing me that sports are fun, and you also want to be angry when they don't do something up to your expectation. And I also need to have that balance. So thank you, Mama, teaching me how to swear. Um, my grandma Phillips was my mom's mother, and they lived up in Illinois. So we didn't see them often. We had to wait until summer vacation, and if we had enough money, my dad would travel. We'd all go up to see my grandparents, and then he would usually do some kind of a job while he was there for my grandfather, and he would get paid by my grandfather. And that was because he was a teacher. He was the only adult working in our home, bringing in money. And back then, teachers had the whole summer off. So that was like a month or more off back in when we were in school. And so that was like a whole paycheck that we didn't get if we didn't do something like that. So Daddy would always find either work from my grandfather up in Illinois, or he would do odd jobs during the summer. Like he was a counselor one time for a boys group, and found places for them to work in the summertime, and he did all sorts of eclectic things in order to get money until they decided to pay teachers throughout the summer. They would dock their pay throughout the year and put it toward a paycheck during the summer, so he didn't have to do that. But my Grandma Phillips was an amazing woman. She didn't hold back. Everybody up in Illinois, had some wordy dirties. That was just their thing. And they did go to church, but they also loved alcohol and they drank freely. Boy, down in South, my mama and papa would be like, "Oh, you would not drink." And so it was really weird to see those two different sets of people that were important to me have two totally different ideas about what Christians can and cannot do, which always confused me. I just thought it would be one way. I'm an Aries. This is the right way, this is the wrong way. And that gray area is hard for me to figure out. But Grandma Phillips, loved to have a little drink. She loved to, laugh. There was so much laughter when we were up there. And she left me with knowledge that there can be stern love. She would, I mean, you towed the line with Grandma Phillips. Mama, you could kind of push a little bit, and I never got spanked by Mama, but Grandma Phillips has definitely spanked some of her grandchildren. And she didn't do that to us because, we only came every once in a while and stuff. But my cousins that lived right next door to her frequently got punished and spanked by Grandma Phillips, and she was not playing. So, but her love of laughter and her love of all of her family. I mean, she was a woman that had her ways set in stone a lot of times, but that love still came through. There was always that deep love. And my mom describes her as her best friend. I mean, they told each other everything. And they had a great relationship. Now, in the writing of my memoir, we found out that Grandma didn't tell Mama everything. And so that was weird for Mama to figure out that she didn't always know the things that she thought she would have known from her mother because they shared everything, but not really. So I like the idea, and I thank my Grandma Phillips for showing me that love doesn't have to be just soft and mushy and never be complicated, that love can be stern. Love can say what you need to say and expect people to love you in the way that you deserve to be loved. But I thank Grandma Phillips. Now, Grandpa Phillips was the wild boy. He was the one that was, fun to be around, sometimes scary fun. There were times that we'd go up there and he apparently had been drinking, and then he took us out for a ride that was terrifying, and I really thought we were going to die. Um, he was a complicated man. We found out later that he really did have mental illness, and because of that, his passion for life was give and take. I mean, there were times I think that he probably was depressed, not usually during the time that we were there during the summer. Um, but those were the times that he was like just wild and wacky and would give us opportunities to do things that we probably were not safe to do. And it was Grandma Phillips and that stern love of hers that would probably and often would pull him back from something, or she would give an explanation to cover for him, or she would, you know, tell us that he was just joking, or he really didn't mean to tell you to go do that really dangerous thing, and you don't need to be doing that. And so Grandpa Phillips left for me that passion for life, just to be wide open, to look for possibilities, to do things you want to do. And I've always remembered how even it's tragic that a lot of that came from a mental illness, but it is also something that I remember as a permission to just live your life in joy, really, to live your life in joy. And if for those of us who don't do that because of mental illness, if we could embrace the gift that Grandpa Phillips left me for that just unbounded passion for life and be able to live fully no matter what's going on, find that passion for life. So thank you, Grandpa Phillips. Now, my daddy, I admired him so much. He was an athlete. He had served in the Navy. He was an excellent coach, an amazing basketball player. And then he coached other sports too. He has coached football, and he also played baseball. And he was just an amazing, eclectic man. I think he was really smart. He never owned his intelligence. He always downplayed all of his gifts. I don't know if he was taught to do that from the sternness of his upbringing with Papa and Mama, but he always downplayed. But still, there was still this edge of him knowing that he was greater than he said, but he never really named it that much. Daddy left me with a love of sports. He ate, read, drank, and lived sports in his personal life and just in watching sports. So he played it, he watched it, he always read about it, and he absolutely loved it. And all of the kids that he coached loved it and loved him as well, not everybody loved him as a coach. If there was this one incident, and it was a mad daddy that wanted his boy to play, and daddy had told the boy that you play a team game. We don't, there's not just one of you to score. You pass that ball, you run the play. And the boy just wouldn't do it. And he warned him and warned him. He said, I will bench you if you don't run the plays that I call. You need to run the plays. And the boy wouldn't do it. So daddy benched him. And we lost the game because he wasn't in there, because he really was a very good player. And boy, that night the kid's dad met my dad out in the parking lot, and there was some very intense words, and there was a knife involved, and it was really really scary. Um, but Daddy had conviction. He had conviction for team play. He modeled a lot of his coaching techniques from Dean Smith. And so he had this ethics. He really had a lot of ethics behind his ball coaching, and he really wanted the kids to embrace those ethics of team play and win together and lose together, instead of never being able to win without one person. Everybody combined brought strength to that. So his love for sports and the idea of sports in life, I really took away that from that with him, is that we are not a single entity that brings all things. When we're in combination with a group of people, there's so much better things that we can accomplish. You look at a parish, and you have a preacher, you have people who read, you have people who sing, you have people who worship, and people that do all sorts of jobs in the church, and not one person can do everything. That's why you have, either your deacons and deaconesses, or you have a vestry, or you have a combination of things, because we are a family within that body of Christ. And when we are trying to do everything by ourselves, or you're trying to do things only one way without that ability to open up and find new and exciting ways to do things, then there's a dullness. And I think death comes to a lot of churches because they never grow. They never experience something bigger and better than what they are. And it's not that what they are is bad, but it's stagnant. And so even those churches that are thriving and having great success, they are also always growing and finding new ways to do things, and that's what keeps it fresh and keeps it good. So thank you, Daddy, for the love of sports, and thank you for showing us that team play is really, really important. Now, Mama, she left me the joy of music. She loved playing the piano. She loved singing. She went to church to sing in the choir. Just gave that up a few years ago. She's now 91, but it was her legs that kind of kept her from going, because she has really bad bone on bone knees, and it was hard for her to be able to motivate to get up into the choir loft. And so that was the only thing that kept her from doing that. She really loved it and wanted to always sing. And she just had this, she played the piano and did it with chords, and it was beautiful. And I loved listening to her play. And the love of music came into play, especially during Christmas, when she and I would do duets on the piano. Now, I am not a pianist. I took a year, I think, maybe two, but it's very small amount of lessons. I learned how to play some things, and I would never play throughout the year, but I would come in one time a year or something for Christmas, and we would play those duets, and I knew how to do that. And there was this other song that I would come in and play, and it drove my daddy nuts, because he had tried to play it and he couldn't learn to play the piano very well. He did play some toward in his later years, but he always wanted to be fluent in piano playing, and he would be so mad that I could not touch the keys of a piano for a year, and I would come in during some visit and I would play that piano and play that one song. It drove him nuts. Just simple joys, people, simple joys. But Mama loved music, and it's sad now to see that love of music has kind of dissipated, because she doesn't go to church very often anymore. She doesn't, sing in a choir. She doesn't have a piano where she is. She didn't want to take it with her. My sister had told her she could bring her piano, and she didn't want to do it. We were kind of grateful, because we didn't really know how we were going to move it. And so, she's now really without the music, and and that's a sad thing to see, that sometimes the things that we enjoy the most just kind of wilt and move on and we leave behind because we're not physically able to do it or mentally able to do it. And so, with great joy can come sadness. And I thank my mom for showing me that even when things aren't staying the same, she still has laughter. She still enjoys the company of others. It's just that she had to give up certain things because she aged. And as we age, giving up things is something that is just part of life, and hopefully that we've been able to continue to learn how to change and move forward, so that it may not be that I play the piano anymore or sing in a choir, but what do I enjoy doing now? And so it's not like this is all you'll ever be. We have to continue to morph into new experiences, new loves, new ways of dealing with the body and the life that we have, because we can't stay the same. We will never, ever stay the same. So thank you, Mama, for your love and joy of music. Now, my beloved's mom, I named her Mama Mac because I really felt the moment that I met her that I was embraced by her as a member of the extended family. And later I was in the inside of the family. But she had this unconditional love. She would love you, unless you wronged her kids or her. She would your ups, your downs, your mistakes. She just loved, loved, loved in the only way that she knew how to do it. And it wasn't a perfect God love, but it was really close because she just had this sense of always wanting to give, always wanting to help, always wanting to show you that she loved you. She would pay attention during the year and usually give you the gifts that you didn't even know you really, really needed, but she would find them and give them. And it was just a beautiful kind of love. She was always opening her door to people. She often had some roommates because she knew that they needed a place to go. My sister even used her one time for, in between transitions between a husband, she was able to go and stay with Mama Mac, and you know, she always let people land there, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And that unconditional love is definitely, an image of how her Christianity and her belief in what God and Jesus were all about. I mean, she was so much of a Jesus follower that she did do that in her lifetime. She baked cookies for people. She visited people in nursing homes. She even took her little dog Dakota that lived with us the last few years. Um, she would take her to nursing homes and as a untrained um, therapy dog, but they loved the visits, and Dakota was brilliant. She loved people and she loved to be petted, and it was just a perfect combination. And so Mama Mac would take her to visit her friends that were in nursing homes or in placements, and everybody loved it, just loved it, and loved seeing Dakota coming. And of course, having Marge there to visit with and cut through some of that boredom. So thank you, Mama Mac, for your unconditional love. My beloved's daddy was a very intelligent man. He was an architect, he was an artist, and he really um, opened up my more intellectual side. I mean, we would take Shel Silverstein books and have a whole evening of just turning that book around in a circle, like everybody would get a chance to look through it and find something to read that spoke to them, and then we could discuss that. And we would go camping together as a group. It would be me and Beloved and her daddy and stepmom. It was just so much fun. And we had the dogs with us. And anytime we went to their house, we could take the dogs. And it was just really so much fun. And when we built the house that we're in now, there was a place between the house and then we did a detached garage, and so there was this land, not very much, not a very big place of land, but some land, and I wanted a little garden, and I wanted to have rosemary and thyme and parsley and all these, everything that went with that song. I wanted to have that in my garden. And so they came up one weekend and created a plan, and he was an artist and so was my stepmom. And so they didn't just have like a garden. They did borders. They had a walking path that kind of weaved around. I got an arbor. I mean, we planted sunflowers on the baskets on the garage under the window, and it was just beautiful. And they just spent their time helping us figure it out and giving suggestions and then helping with the work. It was the best day ever. It was just so awesome. And now that garden has been so unattended for years. I have major work to do before next year. But it's a beautiful place, and it reminds me of the solitude because I would go out and there's a little bench that I have out there, and even though it's still, I can still hear the road behind me, but I'm looking at the garden and down through the woods, and it was always my little piece of heaven where I could go and just get a moment of peace. And I really appreciate the biggest part I appreciate him, even though the artistry was woven through our lives with him the whole time, his level of acceptance when we came out to him was stellar. I had my own, if you've read my memoir, you know how it went for me to tell my family. But as soon as we told him, he bolted up out of that chair from the table and came over to us. I thought he was going to hit us, but he hugged, his daughter. He then hugged me. It was just this open door acceptance of who we were. And she was afraid to tell him because, it's her daddy. And even though he loved us and we knew he loved us, um, and we thought he probably knew, just, you know how it is. Whether you think they'll be okay or not, you're still scared, to death to say it. And his level of acceptance of me and of my beloved was just always such a big lesson for me that parents can love their children and accept them even when they do wrong. And so even with the whole church thing, the daddy issues and the God being the father, it always kind of had a rub with me. My daddy was not unconditional like that. He wasn't that accepting. Um, it was really hard for me to always consider how a male figure could be that. And the Old Testament's not a great glowing representation of the loving God, of our understanding that we are making a relationship with now. So it was hard, and it was nice to have her father model for us that he can be soft and artistic and smart and accepting of something that's not a social norm. My beloved stepmom was a wacky, artistic, outrageous, funny sailor. And she also was a drafts person. She had the really intellectual kind of side, but most of her life was art and music and dancing and eclectic colors. And for his very quiet, stern looking appearance, she was way out there. And it was a great combination. And she did bring him out and help him to live a little bit during his lifetime. And she just had this quirky authenticity. And that's what she left me with, is that to know that the joy of life is too short not to be authentic and bring your own spice to it. So she just was the greatest person, and she was fun, and she baked really good things, and she just was a joy to be around. As I mentioned before, the camping trips that we went with them on was just so much fun. And she's the one that taught me that you don't just bring cold hot dogs and hope for the best. That you cook, you make spaghetti at the campsite, you have toasted bread. They had all these gadgets because not only did they camp a lot, they also sailed. And so they had the little kitchen in the boat, and they would cook delicious things on the boat. And so I never knew that you could camp and not just starve to death. I never really camped that much anyway until my beloved and I, took our month-long trip after graduate school all the way out to California, up to Washington State. We did a big old circle of the whole United States, and we were gone a month. And Beloved's dad gave us his red Saab and his camping gear and sent us off on our way to go see Beloved's aunts in California and then her grandparents up in Washington. And we had the best time. And it was because they valued family. They knew that my beloved loved her grandparents and her aunts, the two aunts that never got married, weren't really blood related, lived together for like over 40 years. Yeah, them. Great role models for us, whether we knew it or not at the time, but great role models for us. Um, so, I really, really love all of the memories and everything that I've been left over my lifetime. And so, beloved stepmom, quirky, authentic girl, thank you for the joy of life and that quirky authenticity. There are other people in my life who have died, but I wanted to focus on the family for this All Saints Day with a twist. And I would be amiss if I had not spoken about all of our fur babies who have come into our lives. And I call this section Reincarnated Love. I do that because as a group, and of those that we have had and have lost, it was Danny, Sheba, Rainey, Secha, Carissa, Layla, Roddy, Jasper, Echo, Mona Bell, and Dakota. Now, I could take the time to go through each one of these fur babies and tell you what they left me, but the biggest thing would be that reincarnated love that they all had. And I know, and I will always believe in my heart, that the souls of our fur babies can recycle back, reincarnate into another animal's body, and they live with us again. The most drastic example of this was when we adopted Dakota for Mama Mac. And Dakota came from Kansas. There was no way that Dakota would have known anything about Mama Mac's house. There's just no way. And she had had a previous dog, and that dog had been gone for probably at least a year. And when we brought Dakota in, Mama Mac let her off the leash, which is not something that we recommend, by the way, not in the very beginning, but she let her off the leash, and that dog went directly through the living room into the kitchen and drank out of the water bowl that she had put down where her other dog used to drink water, and then went directly to the closet in the kitchen to look for treats, which is where Marge usually kept the treats. Now, people would say, well, dogs can smell water and dogs can, smell food. That may be true, but I'm telling you, that girl knew exactly where to go, and it was uncanny. And many of our dogs that have entered our lives and became our, fur babies always had something that a dog before them had. It would be like a special look, or they did a special thing. I mean, you could just tell that it was familiar. You knew them because they've been here before. And they would look at you and you would get that there's a look that the other dog might have given you, or it was a special thing that they would do. And it was really, really the same thing. Like right now we have Mackenzie, we call her Kenzie, and she is the spitting image of Roddy, our other corgi boy that got lost and then was found. And she lays her head down on the floor, like flat on the floor, when you're trying to put on her collar. And that's exactly what Roddy used to do. They never lived together at all. It was just uncanny. She looks at you the same way that he would look at you. And not all corgis are the same, by the way. They have very different personalities. They have very different mannerisms. And Mackenzie is just lined up with Roddy with her looks and with her mannerisms. It's amazing. So what have all of these puppies left me? And that is their reincarnated love, that love does not die. And that love will continue to recycle and to reflow back to us. We send it out, it embraces, and it comes back. And so when we do grieve, and yes, I grieve over every puppy that has left, I've grieved over every person that I've known that has died. Some of them are harder than others, of course, because we have different relationships and different connections. But it's really something when we remember that everything that was left for us will now recycle through us to someone else. And so their mannerisms, their way of life, if we allow that in thankfulness to come through us and put it back out into the world, we too can become that big circle of life that is authentic and ever-changing, growing, expanding, and we can be a part of the greatest love of all, and that is to carry all love with us and share that love with others. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for sharing this time with me. Thank you for always listening and supporting and sharing and subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to see more information and links to connect with me, go to the Gay with God show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. That's where you'll find a way to connect with me if you want coaching for resilience, coming out, faith journeys. I offer a complimentary session, which is a 45-minute to an hour session that is completely free, and you can sign up for that on the show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. You can visit my website, gaywithgod.com, and learn more about me and see all the other things that I do. You can also check me out on Facebook. Look for the Facebook group Gay with God. We do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey from that Facebook page, and you can join that once a month, and we talk about our coming out, faith journey, and life. Sometimes we just talk about the insanity of life right now and how it's affecting not only us personally, but maybe our faith and our fear factors and all those things. So come join us at the Gay with God group on Facebook. You can also find my memoir, Gay with God, Reclaiming My Faith, Honoring My Story, on the show page, empoweredmidge.podbean.com, or on the website, gaywithgod.com. I would love to have you purchase it from the website, and I would be able to sign a copy for you. So whichever way works best for you, or you can find the memoir wherever you buy your books. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, or not even sure if you are gay, God has always been within you. Even when you didn't know it, you have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.